Hello everyone, this is In-Game Arts with another box, another offline product game review. This is Days Gone, or more specifically, this is Days Gone, the 2020 reprint edition for the PlayStation 4, but being played and tested on my PlayStation 5. To jump right into it, this physical copy here comes with the update version 1.61 on disc, but sadly there was an update available. Its update size was 26.7 gigabytes big and will take you to version 1.81 since the time of this video. Now, like always, I play all my games completely offline with an unregistered account, and with this new updated reprint version of the game ran perfectly smooth to beginning to end. There were some minor hiccups and oddities here and there, and I will go into details, but nothing that really prevented me from progressing or beating the game compared to the first released vanilla version of the game. And as well, I was still unlocking trophies with my unregistered account. Now, if you're not aware, there is currently at the time of this video two physical copies of Days Gone. There is the vanilla first release of the game, which was 1.0, and there is this 2020 reprint edition, which we're just basically calling it the 2020 reprint edition, and that comes with the 1.61 on disc. Now, I've covered this in the past. I made a video when I discovered this reprint edition, and most of everyone got together trying to gather up information and stuff like that, and I wanted to compile and provide you guys the best ease of information I can give you to be able to find this reprint edition, as it's not going to be the easiest, but luckily there is a few key hints that be able to make the process easier in case you are trying to buy a new copy or a used copy in the future. But I want to point out that this reprint edition does not come with any of the PS5 updates. It only comes with 1.61, so you won't have like 60 frames per second and so forth. The game runs at 30 frames per second, but I never once saw a dip or anything like that when I was playing on my PS5. It ran butterly smooth at 30 frames per second, which is great to see because I don't really am stickler about frame rates or graphics or resolutions or anything like that. Yes, I do prefer 60 frames per second, but to me, as long as it runs a steady frame rate, whether 30 or 60, it's perfectly fine, as long as it's a consistent frame rate. And that's the key thing, consistency. If it dips a little bit, it doesn't matter whether it's 30 or 60. It's just 30, it's a little bit more noticeable. Now, there were some oddities. I did beat the game and fully complete it, which is great, and compared to the vanilla first release, when I first covered that, I came across two game-breaking bugs that prevented me from progressing. The first one, I was luckily able to reload my save and fix the issue, but the second game-breaking bug, I couldn't fix anything, I couldn't do anything, I just completely stopped. But with this reprint edition, I was able to 100% complete the game. I did everything the game has to offer, which is, again, extremely nice, but sadly there was still minor hiccups. And what those hiccups were was that I did have some weird moments during a cutscene. It happened 2 times during two different cutscenes where all the characters would act like in slow motion and they would talk in slow motion, but they wouldn't talk, there was no dialogue coming out, but their mouths were moving in slow motion. This happened twice in 2 different cutscenes, and I was really worried that it was going to be more consistent throughout the experience, but luckily it happened 2 times, and they weren't really big, important cutscenes, so that's really great to see, but it could happen more during your Let's Play, or playthrough of the game, so just bear that in mind. That was one of the bigger issues. Another one of the bigger ones was that I did have one moment where the game had some problems loading up assets, and the ground and the environments were low polygon and no details or anything like that. At first it wasn't that big of a deal, but then I found myself just getting stuck on random bits of the environment, as well as I falling through the ground and stuff, and I couldn't progress or move. Thankfully, I was able just to close out the game, close out the application, reboot up the game, reload my save, and it fixed the issue. So that was the only one that was probably like the biggest sign of probably preventing progression, but thankfully it wasn't that big of an issue. But again, you never know with bugs. As well as that there are some pretty long load times, so if you're someone who's used to PlayStation 5 and instant snappy jumping into the game, there is some significant long load times in this game. Sometimes it's short, sometimes it's fairly long, so I mean, just bear that in mind. There was, again, some other little odd issues and everything, but they could have been one-offs. but there was a HUD flickering one. This one was quite consistent. Usually, like when I picked up an item and I immediately tried to hop on my motorcycle or did a few other things, my health meter and my like scrap parts and med pack meter would like be flickering on and off, on and off. It just did it randomly at random moments in the game. Usually when I like picked up an item or something like that. And thankfully, it always fixed itself when I was playing, so at least it was fixing itself and it wasn't that big of an issue. And that's about everything that I can think of on top of my head in terms of all the issues I've had. The overall experience was still much better than compared to the vanilla version of the game. I know I sound like I rounded off a bunch of issues and everything like that, but trust me, it's a lot better than compared to the first release vanilla version, which had a slew of issues and problems and everything like that. So I was really happy to be able to finally sit down and play Days Gone to beginning to end, and I greatly enjoyed the game. Days Gone was a phenomenal open world game. It's a very main story-driven experience. Some might be disappointed that it's not as focused on the zombie aspect of the game, but it's definitely more about the story of Deacon and all the characters trying to survive apocalypse of the world, and you try to understand humanity's efforts to try to rebuild the world in a more better way with the zombie outbreak. And think something like The Walking Dead, where it's like a lot about the characters trying to survival than really about the zombies, which they're more of like the reason why, but they're not the main focus of the game. And you play as Deacon, which is a very interesting character. I don't really particularly agree with his Deacon's code that he has, where he doesn't shoot unarmed women. Not fully understand what the point of that, because you shouldn't shoot anybody who's unarmed. Why is that exclusively for women? I understand that there are people like that, and I've met people like that, and they're not bad people or anything like that, but they just see women that should be treated in a different way than how do you say, equality and stuff like that. I know it's a touchy subject, but it seems odd of his stance on the subject, considering they don't shoot unarmed women. It's like you shouldn't shoot anybody unarmed. It's just a very odd story part about Deacon, but that doesn't mean I don't like the character. He's who he is, and I respect how his belief and stance on subjects. And I loved all the other characters in the game. I just really enjoyed the characters, the writing, the pacing, the environment. The game does start off pretty slow at the beginning, but it does pick up. You start really seeing the big picture of the game with, I guess, as I said, the story, the progression, getting better equipment, doing all the side objects and stuff like that. Really enjoyable. I really enjoyed the game. It's one of the few huge open world games that I really enjoyed because the world isn't too big, and the motorcycle, the environments, the gameplay is all on point, and it's fast and fluid and smooth. The crafting and stuff like that is all there. It's a very good game, and I'm really glad to have this updated version on my shelf. And if you're a fan of PlayStation or you like to look for exclusives, this reprint edition is highly recommended. I do not recommend the vanilla version of the game because that is borderline broken and unplayable. Then you could get lucky and beat it, but if you can, try to get this reprint edition. It's well worth to be in your collection. Days Gone is, like I said, one of the top 10 best PS4 games you can play, and personally, it's probably one of my most top 10 favorite games that I really enjoyed. Because I just simply love the characters, from Ricky to Abby, to Iron Mike, to Schizo, to Boozer, to Copeland. There's a slew of other characters that even the characters I wasn't supposed to like, I did enjoy them as a character or just as an antagonist and stuff like that. It's very well done. But I want to go in, before this video gets too long, about the reprint edition. As I said, there is two physical versions. There's the vanilla and this 1.61. So I try to help you guys try to figure out how to find this physical copy. And thank you to all the people who has messaged me to inform me and try to provide the best amount of information I can to provide to helping you find a physical copy with this reprint edition. Sadly, it's not the easiest, but there are some clear hints to guide you to the reprint version. I will post images so you can see what I'm talking about. There's two case versions, and they did change the cover art. There's one that says only on PlayStation. There's another one that says it doesn't have the only on PlayStation. Now, the one that doesn't have the only on PlayStation is almost a guarantee to be the reprint version of the game. So if you come across a new copy of Days Gone and you see that no logo of only on PlayStation, it is highly likely that that is going to be the reprint edition. There is reprint editions of the only on PlayStation, but there was a small run at the beginning of the 2020 edition version of the game. So you could maybe find the only on PlayStation one, and it has the updates on the disc, but again, that's not going to be very as likely as looking for one that doesn't have the only on PlayStation logo on the cover art. Sadly, there's nothing you can really do in terms of name on the disc cover or anything like that, or any other indication, the barcode of the game or anything. There's nothing else. The only thing you can probably look at is those two things. That's the big clearest hint, as well as that I was informed, multiple people told me, that this does also apply to PAL versions of the game, which again, huge thanks to all the people who are trying to contribute to provide this information so that people can find this reprint edition of the game. As well as that, if you are unaware of how to identify what your version is on disc, I will provide a description in the description detailing how to check your game, make sure to turn off your internet and stuff like that, to be able to find and how to verify that you have the 1.61 version of the game. So hopefully this little information is very important to you and helps you find this amazing game and find the best version, and the version they should have shipped off when they first made the game, because the 1.61 is phenomenal. It adds so much more to the game, not just fixing it, it adds new game plus, challenges, higher difficulties, and so on. So it is well worth to try to find that physical copy to add to your collection. So in the end, I mean, it's a phenomenally good game. It's highly underrated. It disappoints me because, I mean, Ben Studio clearly is a very talented in writing characters and setup. Maybe it is a bit on the generic side in terms of the characters as well as the gameplay being another third-person shooter, but it still meshes so well with the good motorcycle mechanic, the upgrading, the crafting, the resource management, the gameplay, the story, and the characters. It may be all the same thing we've seen, but it's done very well, and that's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong being the classic bread and butter, but they did it in such an amazing way, and I'm really glad to have this game on my shelf, and I highly recommend looking for it too, and I most definitely will come back and play Days Gone again. So like always, thank you all so much for watching. I will provide links in the description for Days Gone. Please keep in mind, I have no control what the seller sends you, so if they send you the vanilla version or they send you the one that has only on PlayStation, and they may display the one without the only on PlayStation as a logo. As well as that, please keep in mind, while this information is good for the only on PlayStation logo thing for time point of brand new games, in the future, when used copies are going to become prominent and you have to rely on people putting the discs in the case and giving to you, like going to the GameStop or used game store or mom and pop shop and have multiple copies of the same game, they're not going to think about putting the right disc that goes along with that only on PlayStation logo. So regardless, always make sure you verify and check your physical copy. Like I said, I will provide information on how to do that in the description of this video. So like always, sorry this video has gotten long and extended with all this information, but I want to try to help you guys as much as I can to finding the correct physical copy. So again, thank you all so much for watching my videos, and I'll see you guys in the next unboxing video. Bye bye!